Teacher helps moody student, but when she discovers he was the principal's son. Emily Thompson watched the light brown-haired boy who remained isolated in the corner of the classroom, resting his face on his hand with an expression of disinterest that had lasted 3 weeks since the start of school. At 26, this was her first experience as a lead teacher, and that 11-year-old student represented her biggest challenge. Ethan was different from all the children she had met during her training. He refused to participate in group activities, didn't turn in assignments, and spent recess walking alone around the schoolyard. When she tried to approach him, he would look away and respond with grumpy one-word answers. "Ethan, would you like to join our activity about animals?" Emily asked on Thursday morning, walking over to the desk where he was absent-mindedly doodling in his notebook. "No," he replied without looking up. "Why not? I'm sure you know a lot of interesting animals." The boy finally looked at her, but his dark eyes held a sadness that didn't match his age. "Because I don't like working with others. They're annoying." Emily noticed that Ethan's classmates didn't even try to include him in their games. During recess, she watched from the teacher's lounge window as he walked alone through the halls, sometimes stopping to talk only to Frank, the school custodian. The coordinator, Margaret, a 58-year-old woman with graying hair always pulled into a strict bun, wasn't very optimistic about the situation. "Emily, you're new here and still have all that energy, but some students just don't want help," Margaret said during break, adjusting her glasses as she reviewed some documents. "Ethan has always been like this. We've tried different approaches. But he's just a child. There must be a reason for this behavior." "Look, dear, not every case has a solution. Focus your energy on the students who actually want to learn." Emily couldn't accept that answer. Every night, lying in her small apartment in Greenwich Village, she thought of different strategies to reach Ethan. She researched teaching techniques online, prepared special materials, and even bought educational games with her own money. The following Friday, she decided to try a different approach. She brought a dinosaur puzzle, knowing many kids were interested in the subject. "Ethan, do you know anything about dinosaurs?" she asked, placing the box on his desk. For the first time, she saw a different spark in the boy's eyes. "I know a few things," he answered hesitantly. "How about helping me with this puzzle? I could learn a lot from you." For a few minutes, Ethan seemed engaged. He started sorting the pieces by color and even commented on some types of dinosaurs. Emily felt she was finally making a small breakthrough, but when some classmates came over to see what they were doing, Ethan immediately shut down again. "Forget it, teacher." "I don't want to anymore," he said, pushing the pieces back into the box. "But you were doing so well, Ida." "I said I don't want to," he snapped, crossing his arms and turning back to the window. "Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out." Now continuing. Over the weekend, Emily couldn't stop thinking about Ethan. She decided that on Monday, she'd try an even more personalized strategy. She arrived at school early and prepared an activity about careers, thinking he might be interested in a specific profession. "Everyone, today we'll talk about what our parents do at work," Emily announced to the class after recess. "Who would like to start?" Several hands shot up eagerly. Olivia talked about her mother being a doctor, Jacob shared that his father was an engineer, and so on. When it was Ethan's turn, he mumbled something unintelligible. "Sorry, Ethan, I couldn't hear you. Could you repeat that?" "My dad works at an important place," he said quietly, avoiding eye contact with the class. "What kind of important place?" "I don't know how to explain it." Mason, a sharp boy in the front row, laughed. "I bet his dad isn't even real. That's why he never says anything." Emily saw Ethan's face flush with anger and embarrassment. "Mason, that was very inappropriate. Ethan, you don't have to feel pressured to—" But Ethan had already stood up from his desk and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. Emily followed immediately, finding him in the courtyard, pacing in circles with clenched fists. "Ethan, wait. Don't listen to what Mason said." "Everyone thinks the same thing," he replied without stopping. "They think I'm weird because my dad never comes to meetings or school events." "I'm sure your father has his reasons." "Yeah, he does. He's ashamed of me." The unexpected confession hit Emily like a punch to the gut. She stopped walking and stared at the boy. "Why do you think that?" Ethan finally stopped too, but kept his eyes fixed on the ground. "Because I'm not smart like my brothers. They're in college, getting top grades, and I can barely read properly." "Ethan, you're only 11. It's normal to struggle." "You don't get it," he interrupted, finally looking at her with tears in his eyes. "My dad is a very important person. Everyone expects me to be like him, but I can't." At that moment, Emily realized she was dealing with something far more complex than just a bad mood. This boy was carrying an emotional weight no child should bear. "Ethan, can I ask you something? When was the last time you talked to your dad?" The boy thought for a long time before answering. "A few weeks ago. He's always busy with important meetings." "And would you like to talk to him?" "It's no use. He just ends up disappointed in me." Emily's heart ached. She decided she needed to understand Ethan's family situation better to help him effectively. The next day after school, she took a walk through the neighborhood where Ethan lived. Lincoln Elementary School was in Brookline, and she knew Ethan lived relatively close because she always saw him walking home. She strolled down the tree-lined streets until she found a large, elegant house with a well-kept garden. She spotted Ethan sitting on the porch, talking to an elderly woman in an apron. "Good afternoon," she greeted, approaching the gate. Ethan looked surprised to see her there. "Ms. Thompson, what are you doing here?" "I was in the neighborhood and decided to take a walk. Is this your home?" "Yeah," Ethan replied, visibly uncomfortable. The elderly woman walked toward the gate. It was Mrs. Jenkins, different from the school coordinator, the housekeeper who took care of the house, and Ethan. "Good afternoon, ma'am. Ethan always talks about you. I'm Margaret. I've been taking care of this house for many years." "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Jenkins. Ethan is a very special student. Poor thing, always so alone. His father works too much, leaves early, comes home late. Sometimes they don't even see each other properly on weekends." Emily noticed Ethan lowering his head at those words. "And his mother?" "His mother passed away when he was little," Mrs. Jenkins answered sadly. "That's why the boy is always with me or with Frank at school." Now Emily was starting to understand the situation. Ethan was a boy who had lost his mother early and had an absent father due to work. His loneliness and sense of abandonment explained much of his behavior. "Ethan, how about we stay a little after class tomorrow to do some different exercises? I have some activities that might help with your reading." The boy hesitated but eventually agreed. The next day, after all the students had left, Emily set up a special table with colorful books and educational games. Ethan walked in with his head down, dragging his feet. "Sit here with me," Emily said kindly. "Let's take it slow, no rush." They started with simple words, but Emily soon noticed Ethan had specific difficulties. The letters seemed to dance before his eyes. He mixed up syllable order and showed clear signs of dyslexia. "Ethan, have you ever had an eye exam?" "I don't know. I don't think so." "And does your father know about these struggles?" "I've never told him. He's already sad because I'm not good at anything." Emily felt a mix of anger and sadness. How could a father be so disconnected from his own son's life? "Ethan, you're not bad at anything. You just need a different way to learn. I'll talk to a friend of mine who can help us." In the following days, Emily reached out to Sarah, an educational psychologist she had met in college. She explained Ethan's situation and asked for guidance. "Emily, based on the symptoms you described, it really sounds like dyslexia," Sarah said during a phone call. "But it's essential the parents are involved in the process. Have you spoken to his father?" "That's the problem. His father never shows up at school. I don't even know what he looks like." "You need to find a way to get him involved. Without family support, it's very hard to help the child." Emily decided it was time to take more direct action. She called the emergency number listed in Ethan's file, but a secretary answered. "Good afternoon. I'd like to speak to Ethan Anderson's guardian." "One moment, please," said the professional voice on the other end. After a few minutes of waiting, an impatient male voice answered. "Hello, make it quick, I'm in a meeting." "Good morning, sir. I'm Emily Thompson, Ethan's teacher. I'd like to schedule a time to discuss his progress." "Progress? Is there something seriously wrong?" Nothing serious, but we need to talk about some learning difficulties he's been having. Look, teacher, I trust the school's work. If he's not doing well, take the necessary measures. I have to go now." The call ended abruptly, leaving Emily stunned by the man's coldness. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. Determined not to give up, Emily kept working one-on-one with Ethan after school. Little by little, he began opening up, sharing small details about his life at home. "Teacher, yesterday I tried to show my notebook to my dad, but he was on the phone and told me to leave it on his desk," Ethan shared during one of their extra sessions. "And did he look at it later?" "I don't know. When I woke up today, it was still there." Emily's heart broke with each new revelation. That boy was growing up in an environment of emotional neglect, even though all his material needs were met. The following week, she organized a science fair at the school. It was an annual tradition, and she saw the perfect opportunity to involve Ethan in something special. "Ethan, how about we participate in the science fair? We could create a project about dinosaurs, since you love the topic." The boy's eyes sparkled for the first time in weeks. "Really? You think I could do it?" "I'm sure of it. We'll work together." For 2 weeks, Ethan threw himself into the project with an energy Emily had never seen before. They created a diorama about dinosaur evolution, with explanations adapted to his reading difficulties. "Miss, do you think my dad would come see my project?" Ethan asked the day before the fair. "Let's invite him. He needs to see how smart and capable you are." Emily called the emergency contact number again, but this time she decided to be more insistent. "Sir, it's about the school science fair. Ethan has prepared a very special project and would love for you to be there." "Miss, I really don't have time for these school activities. I have important responsibilities." "But sir, this is important for your son. He needs your support." "Look, I pay for an expensive school precisely so you can handle his education. I don't see why I should—" "With all due respect, sir, education goes far beyond what school can provide. Ethan needs to feel that you're proud of him." There was silence on the other end of the line. "Fine. If it's really that important, I'll try to stop by briefly." On the day of the science fair, Ethan arrived early to set up his display. He was visibly nervous but also excited. "Miss, what do I do if my dad asks questions I don't know how to answer?" "Ethan, you know so much about dinosaurs. Trust yourself. And remember, I'll be right here beside you." The fair began at 2 p.m. Parents gradually arrived, admiring their children's projects. Ethan kept glancing toward the entrance, searching for his father. When it was his turn to present, he started with a shaky voice but slowly gained confidence. He explained the different geological periods, pointed out the features of each dinosaur in the diorama, and answered visitors' questions with surprising knowledge. "Great job, Ethan," praised one mother. "You must have studied hard for this." The boy beamed, but his eyes still scanned the crowd for his father. 3:30 p.m., 4 p.m., 4:30 p.m. His father never came. When the winners were announced, Ethan took first place in the 5th grade category. Emily saw his tears of joy mixed with disappointment. "Congratulations, champ," she said, hugging him tightly. "You were amazing." "Thanks, miss. At least you saw it," Ethan replied, trying to hide his sadness. "Ethan, your father may not have come, but that doesn't take away from what you achieved today. How you proved to yourself that you're capable of incredible things." That night, Emily went home determined to take more drastic action. She couldn't bear to see Ethan suffer like this anymore. She decided to go to his father's workplace for a face-to-face conversation. In the school records, she found the business address listed as the emergency contact, 1150 Michigan Avenue, Suite 801. It was a commercial building in downtown Chicago. The next morning, during her lunch break, Emily took the subway downtown. The building was imposing, with marble walls and strict security at the reception desk. "Good morning. I'd like to speak to the guardian of Ethan Anderson from Lincoln Elementary School," she told the receptionist. The woman looked confused. "I'm sorry, I don't understand. What kind of business do you think this is?" "I need to speak with Ethan's father about urgent school matters." "Oh, I see. One moment, let me check," the receptionist said, consulting a list. Mr. Michael Anderson? That's right. He's in a meeting, but I can let him know you're here. After 15 minutes of waiting, Emily saw a man around 45 years old approaching. He wore an elegant suit, had dark hair with a few grey strands, and a serious expression on his face. "Are you Ethan's teacher?" he asked, extending his hand formally. "Yes, I'm Emily Thompson. Thank you for seeing me. Let's talk in my office." They walked down the hall to a spacious room with a view of the city. Emily noticed diplomas and certificates on the walls, but no photos of Ethan. "Please, have a seat. What exactly is this about?" Emily took a deep breath and decided to be direct. "Mr. Anderson, Ethan is a very special child, but he's going through serious difficulties. I believe he has dyslexia, and on top of that, he's dealing with significant emotional issues." "Dyslexia?" he asked, seeming genuinely concerned for the first time. "Yes. He has specific learning difficulties that are characteristic of this disorder. But what worries me most is his emotional state." Michael leaned back in his chair, looking uncomfortable. "Explain this emotional issue further." "Ethan feels abandoned and rejected. He believes you're ashamed of him because he's not as smart as his older siblings." "Ashamed?" Michael seemed genuinely shocked. "Why would he think that?" "Because you never participate in his school activities, never show interest in what he does, never—" "Hold on," Michael interrupted, standing up and walking to the window. "I work hard to give him a good life. I pay for an excellent school, a nanny to take care of him, the best of everything. Mr. Anderson, with all due respect, a child doesn't just need money. Ethan needs attention, affection, to feel like his father is proud of him." "I am proud of him," Michael said, but his voice didn't sound very convincing. "Then why have you never told him that? Why didn't you come to the science fair yesterday? He won first place and kept looking for you the whole time." Michael sat back down, looking defeated for the first time. "Mrs. Thompson, I lost my wife when Ethan was very young. It was a very difficult time, and I threw myself into work to keep moving forward. Maybe I've distanced myself too much." "Mr. Anderson, Ethan told me the last real conversation you had was weeks ago. He's growing up without his father's presence." "But I am present. I live in the same house as him." "Being physically present isn't the same as being emotionally present," Emily explained patiently. "Ethan needs to feel like he matters to you." Michael was silent for a few minutes, clearly processing the conversation. "What do you suggest I do?" "First, let's arrange a psychoeducational evaluation to confirm the dyslexia and create a support plan. Second, Ethan needs quality time with you. It doesn't have to be a lot of time, but it needs to be time dedicated solely to him." "All right, I'll arrange the evaluation, and I'll try to be more present." Emily felt she had planted an important seed. She thanked him and prepared to leave, but before she reached the door, Michael called her back. "Mrs. Thompson, can I ask you something? Why do you care so much about Ethan?" The question caught her off guard. "Because he's a special child who deserves to be loved and valued, and because I see incredible potential in him that's being wasted due to lack of support." Michael nodded thoughtfully. "Thank you for this talk. It was enlightening." The next day, Emily was eager to see if her conversation with Michael would have any effect. Ethan arrived at school at the usual time, but seemed more thoughtful than usual. During recess, she found him sitting alone in the yard, fiddling with something in his backpack. "Oh, what do you have there, Ethan?" "My science fair trophy," he replied, showing the small golden cup. "My dad got home late yesterday, and when I showed it to him, he said it was really nice." Emily smiled. It was a small step, but it was something. "Did he say anything else?" "He said that on Saturday it'll be just the two of us going out. I don't know where yet, but it'll be just me and him." "That's wonderful, Ethan. How are you feeling?" "A little nervous. It's been a long time since we've spent time together." For the rest of the week, Emily noticed small changes in Ethan's behavior. He was still reserved, but he seemed less bitter. He joined some group activities and even helped a classmate who was struggling with math. The following Monday, Ethan arrived at school with a different energy. "Miss Emily, can I tell you about my Saturday with my dad?" "Of course. How was it?" "We went to the Museum of Natural History. My dad said he wanted to learn more about the dinosaurs I like, and guess what? He apologized for not coming to the science fair. Emily felt her eyes well up with emotion. That's great, Ethan. Did you two talk a lot? Yeah, he told me about his work and asked about school, and I told him about you, about how you've been helping me with reading. What did he say? That he was really grateful to have a teacher who cares about me. That afternoon, Emily got an unexpected phone call. Miss Emily, this is Michael Anderson. I'd like to schedule a meeting to talk about Ethan. Of course, Mr. Anderson. When would be convenient? How about tomorrow after school? I can come by. Perfect. See you then. The next day, Michael arrived at school promptly at 5 p.m. Emily greeted him in her classroom, where Ethan was doing his daily tutoring session. Dad, Ethan exclaimed, looking both surprised and happy. Hey, buddy, I came to talk with Miss Emily about you. Ethan seemed nervous. Did I do something wrong? No, Ethan, quite the opposite, Michael said, crouching down to his son's level. I came because I want to understand better how I can help you with school. During the meeting, Emily explained in detail about dyslexia and the strategies she was using to help Ethan. Michael asked several questions and showed genuine interest in learning. Miss Emily, what can I do at home to support Ethan? First, it's important he feels safe to make mistakes. Kids with dyslexia need a lot of encouragement. Second, establish a study routine but without too much pressure. And what about the emotional side? Ethan needs to feel valued for who he is, not for who you wish he'd be. Celebrate his small victories. In the following weeks, Emily noticed a gradual change in Ethan. He was more engaged in class, smiled more often, and even made a few friends. One day during recess, she saw him playing soccer with some other boys. When he scored a goal, he ran up to her shouting, "Miss Emily, did you see I did it?" "Congratulations, Ethan, you're playing really well." "My dad said he's going to teach me some tricks this weekend. He used to play soccer when he was young." Emily smiled, realizing how Michael's small gestures were making a difference in Ethan's confidence. Still, not everything was easy. Ethan's dyslexia required constant adjustments, and some teachers at the school didn't quite understand how to handle it. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. One day, Emily was approached by the coordinator, Margaret, who looked concerned. "Emily, I need to talk to you about Ethan." "What happened?" "The math teacher is complaining that you're giving him too many privileges. She said he shouldn't get special treatment." Emily Thompson felt a mix of frustration and indignation. "Margaret, Ethan has dyslexia. He needs educational accommodations. These aren't privileges, they're necessities." "I understand, but some colleagues are questioning whether it's fair to the other students. And since when is giving each child what they need to learn no longer fair?" Margaret sighed. "Look, Emily, I don't disagree with you, but I need to keep harmony among the teachers. Maybe you could talk to Mrs. Jenkins and explain the situation better." Emily knew she'd face resistance. Unfortunately, there was still so much misunderstanding about learning disabilities in schools. At lunch, she approached Mrs. Jenkins, the math teacher. "Barbara, Margaret mentioned you have concerns about the accommodations I make for Ethan." Barbara, a woman in her 50s, seemed defensive. "Emily, I have nothing against the boy, but I don't think it's fair he gets extra time for tests while the others have to follow the regular schedule. Barbara, Ethan has dyslexia. It's like forcing a child who wears glasses to take a test without them. But is dyslexia even real? Isn't it just an excuse for laziness?" Emily counted to 10 to keep her patience. "Barbara, dyslexia is a scientifically recognized neurological condition. Ethan has a medical diagnosis. He's not lazy. His brain processes information differently." "I see. And how do I know other students won't demand the same treatment?" "Because other students don't have dyslexia," Emily replied, trying to stay calm. "Barbara, you can research this. There's plenty of material available." The conversation wasn't as productive as Emily had hoped, but at least Barbara promised to try to understand better. A few days later, Ethan arrived in class visibly upset. "What happened, Ethan?" "Mrs. Jenkins told the whole class I need to stop making excuses and work harder like the other kids." Emily felt her blood boil. "She actually said that? She said dyslexia isn't real." that it's just spoiled kids making things up. Ethan, look at me, Emily said, crouching in front of him. Dyslexia is real, and it's not your fault you struggle with it. You're smart, hardworking, and capable. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But what if she's right? What if I'm just lazy? Ethan, do you think a lazy kid would win first place in a science fair? Do you think a lazy kid would stay after school every day to study with me? The boy thought for a moment and shook his head. Then don't believe people who don't really know you. That afternoon, Emily made a difficult decision. She called Michael and told him what had happened. Mr. Anderson, I need you to know Ethan is being humiliated by one of his teachers. What do you mean? What exactly happened? Emily recounted the whole situation. On the other end of the line, she could hear Michael breathing heavily. This is unacceptable, he finally said. I'm coming to the school tomorrow to talk to the principal. Mr. Anderson, maybe we should handle this calmly. We don't want to make things worse for Ethan. Mrs. Thompson, my son won't be shamed because of adults' ignorance. There will be consequences. The next day, Michael arrived at the school during lunch. He asked to speak with the principal and Mrs. Jenkins. Emily was nervous, fearing the situation might escalate for Ethan. During recess, she tried to reassure him. Ethan, your dad came to talk about what happened with Mrs. Jenkins. Is he mad at me? No, he's mad at whoever embarrassed you. He wants to protect you. My dad never did that before, said Ethan, looking surprised. Well, sometimes people change when they realize what truly matters. The meeting lasted over an hour. When it ended, Emily saw Michael leaving the principal's office with a serious expression, followed by the coordinator, Margaret. Mrs. Thompson, called Margaret. Could you come here for a moment? Emily walked to the principal's office where she found the principal, Margaret, Barbara, and Michael. Emily, said the principal, Mrs. Jenkins, Mr. Anderson brought up a situation we need to clarify further. Barbara looked visibly uncomfortable. Emily, I may have been inappropriate with Ethan. I didn't know enough about dyslexia. Barbara, what matters is that you're willing to learn more now, Emily said diplomatically. Michael looked directly at Barbara. Teacher, my son has already suffered a lot from misunderstanding. I hope this doesn't happen again. Of course not, Mr. Anderson. I'll make an effort to better understand Ethan's needs. The principal concluded the meeting by requiring all teachers to attend training on learning difficulties. Afterward, Michael stayed to talk with Emily. Teacher, thank you for calling me. Ethan told me everything when I got home yesterday. How was he? Sad, but also surprised because I stood up for him. I realized he wasn't used to that. Emily saw a genuine change in Michael. He seemed more aware of his role as a father. Mr. Anderson, may I make a suggestion? Of course. Ethan needs to feel he can count on you always, not just in tough situations. How about setting aside a weekly time just for the two of you? I've thought about that. I was planning to take him out for lunch every Saturday, just us two. I think that's a wonderful idea. In the following weeks, Ethan arrived on Mondays excitedly sharing stories about his Saturday lunches with his dad. He talked about the places they visited, the conversations they had, and the plans they made together. Teacher, my dad said once I get better at reading, we'll travel to a place with lots of dinosaur museums. What a wonderful incentive, Ethan. And he said he doesn't care if I take longer to read than others. He said what matters is that I never give up. Emily smiled, seeing how Michael's encouraging words were strengthening Ethan's confidence. During one of their tutoring sessions, Ethan asked a question that surprised her. Mrs. Thompson, why do you care so much about me? The question was so direct and sincere that Emily was moved. Ethan, you know when you see a wilting plant and you water it because you know it can bloom? Yeah. That's how I feel about you. I see all your intelligence and potential and I want to help you bloom. Am I blooming? You are. Don't you see how different you are from a few weeks ago? Ethan thought for a moment. It's true. Before I didn't like coming to school. And now? Now I do. Especially our extra lessons. Know why? Because here I can be myself without feeling ashamed. Ethan's answer touched Emily deeply. That was exactly what she wanted to provide, a safe space where he could be his true self. As the months passed, Ethan's transformation became evident to the whole school. He participated more in activities, formed genuine friendships, and his academic performance improved significantly. The relationship between Ethan and Michael also flourished. Michael began attending school events, helped Ethan with homework, and most importantly, made time for meaningful conversations with his son. One day, during one of the classes, Ethan asked to speak with Emily in private. "Teacher, can I tell you a secret?" "Of course, Ethan." "My dad cried yesterday." Emily grew concerned. "Why did he cry? Did something bad happen?" "No, it wasn't sadness. We were looking at the photos from the science fair you sent him, and when he saw my trophy, he started crying." "And what did he say?" "He said he was proud of me, and that he was really sorry for missing my presentation. He said he'd never miss anything important in my life again." Emily felt her eyes well up. "How did you feel when he said that?" "It was the first time I felt like my dad really loves me," Ethan replied simply. At that moment, Emily realized her work had been worth it. It wasn't just about improving Ethan's grades. It was about rebuilding a family relationship that had been slipping away. The training on learning difficulties had brought positive changes to the whole school. Other teachers began identifying students with similar needs and adapting their methods. Barbara, the math teacher, approached Emily a few weeks later. "Emily, I want to thank you. After what happened with Ethan, I decided to study dyslexia and realized I have other students who probably face the same challenge." "That's wonderful, Barbara. How has it been working with these adjustments?" "Challenging, but rewarding. I've noticed that when we tailor teaching to individual needs, all the students benefit." Emily smiled, realizing the change was broader than she'd imagined. By the end of the first semester, the school organized a student showcase. Ethan prepared a new presentation on paleontology, this time with much more confidence. "Teacher, my dad said he's taking the day off to come see my presentation." "How wonderful! How are you feeling?" "A little nervous, but excited too. This time I know he'll be there." On the day of the showcase, Ethan presented brilliantly. Michael was in the front row, recording everything on his phone with a proud smile. When the presentation ended, he was the first to applaud. "Congratulations, son. You were amazing," Michael said, hugging Ethan in front of everyone. "Thanks, Dad. Teacher Emily helped me a lot." Michael approached Emily. "Teacher, I don't have the words to thank you for everything you've done for us, not just for Ethan, but for helping me be a better father." "Mr. Anderson, you both did all the work. I just showed the way." "No, it was much more than that. You saved our family." That afternoon, as Emily was tidying her classroom after the event, Ethan appeared with his father. "Teacher Emily, my dad wants to ask you something." Michael looked a little embarrassed. "Teacher, Ethan and I were talking about next semester. We know you'll still be his teacher, but we'd like to know if we can keep these tutoring sessions." "Of course, why would you doubt that?" "Because we don't want to take advantage of your kindness," Michael replied. "You've already done so much for us." "Mr. Anderson, working with Ethan is a pleasure. Seeing his progress motivates me to be a better teacher every day." Ethan beamed. "So we'll keep being a team." "Always," Emily replied, hugging the boy. As the school year drew to a close, Emily reflected on everything that had happened. What started as a teaching challenge had become a journey of discovery, growth, and transformation for everyone involved. Ethan had learned he was capable and smart, just in a different way. Michael had rediscovered fatherhood and the importance of being present in his son's life. And Emily had learned that being an educator goes far beyond teaching academic content. On the last day of school, Ethan handed Emily a drawing. It was a simple sketch, made with colored pencils showing 3 people: a dark-haired woman, her, a smiling boy, him, and a man in a suit, his father. "What does this drawing represent, Ethan?" "It's my family," he replied naturally. "Your family?" "Yeah, my dad, me and you. Because you take care of me like family too." Emily felt tears welling up. In that moment, she understood she had found her true calling, not just teaching, but touching lives and building bridges between people. During the school break, Michael called Emily a few times, always updating her on Ethan's progress. They had traveled together, visited museums, and most importantly, talked a lot. "Miss Thompson? Ethan asked me if you'll still be his teacher next year. And what did you tell him?" "That it's not entirely up to us, but we do everything to make it happen. You can rest easy. I've already spoken with the administration, and I'll continue with Ethan's class." What a relief. Ethan will be so happy. When classes resumed, Ethan arrived on the first day with renewed energy. He ran to Emily and hugged her tightly. "Miss Thompson, I missed you." "I missed you too, Ethan. How was your break?" "Amazing. My dad and I went to Aspen and visited the Museum of Natural History there, and guess what? I read a whole book about paleontology. A whole book. What a wonderful achievement. It was hard, but my dad helped me with the tougher words. He said there's no rush, that the important thing is for me to enjoy reading." Emily smiled, realizing how Michael's patience and support were making a difference in Ethan's growth. The new school year brought new challenges, but also new opportunities. Ethan was more mature, more confident, and above all, happier. His dyslexia was still a reality, but now he and everyone around him knew how to handle it positively. During a parent-teacher conference at the start of the second semester, Michael approached Emily. "Miss Thompson, Ethan has a proposal for you." "A proposal?" Ethan stepped forward, looking a little shy. "Miss Emily, my dad and I were thinking, would you like to have dinner at our house on Saturday?" The question took Emily by surprise. "Ethan, what a special invitation. But why?" "Because you're our family too. And families have dinner together sometimes, right?" Michael smiled. "Miss Thompson, it would be an honor to have you over." Ethan insisted we ask. Emily felt her heart warm. "I'd be delighted to accept." The following Saturday, Emily arrived at Ethan's house carrying a cake she had baked especially for the occasion. Ethan greeted her at the door, wearing a dress shirt and his hair neatly combed. "Miss Thompson, I'm so glad you came." The house was specially arranged. Mrs. Jenkins had prepared a delicious dinner, and the table was set with great care. Over dinner, they talked about many things. Ethan shared his new projects. Michael spoke about how he had rearranged his schedule to spend more time with his son, and Emily shared her experiences as an educator. "Miss Emily," Michael said during dessert, "I need to confess something. When you showed up at my office that day, my first reaction was irritation. I thought, another teacher trying to cause trouble. What changed your mind? When I realized you weren't there to criticize but because you genuinely cared about Ethan. It made me reflect on the kind of father I was being." Ethan looked at his father with admiration. "My dad has changed a lot, Mrs. Thompson. Now we talk about everything." "And what about you, Ethan? How do you feel about these changes?" "I feel loved," he answered simply. "Before I thought my dad didn't like me. Now I know he was just lost, like I used to get lost with letters before you taught me." The comparison Ethan made touched Emily and Michael deeply. "Ethan, that was a very smart comparison," said Emily. "Sometimes adults need to learn new things about relationships too." "That's true," agreed Michael. "And both of you were my teachers in that subject." After dinner, Ethan showed Emily his room, now filled with books about dinosaurs, science fair trophies, and on the wall, the drawing he had made of her framed. "Ethan, you framed the drawing." "My dad said important drawings should be framed. This one is very important because it shows our family." Emily was moved again, seeing how this child had so naturally and lovingly redefined the concept of family. The following months brought steady growth. Ethan participated in more academic competitions, always with the unconditional support of his father and his teacher. His self-esteem grew stronger, and he began helping other classmates who also struggled with learning. One day, Ethan came to school with special news. "Mrs. Thompson, I have something important to tell you." "What is it, Ethan?" "My dad said he wants to officially adopt you as my second mom." Emily laughed, realizing Ethan had taken a conversation about her importance to the family quite literally. "Ethan, did your dad really say that?" "Well, actually, he said you were like a mother to me, but I thought it should be official." Emily hugged Ethan. touched by the boy's innocence and affection. "Ethan, I'm so honored you see me that way. Even without official papers, you're a very special family to me too." During the end-of-year ceremony, Principal Patricia gave a special speech. "This year our school experienced something very special. Mrs. Emily Thompson showed us how love and dedication can transform not just students, but entire families." Emily felt embarrassed by the public praise, but Ethan beamed with pride. Ethan Anderson's story has become an example for all of us about never giving up on any child, the principal continued, and about how partnerships between school and family can create miracles. After the ceremony, Michael approached Emily. "Mrs. Thompson, Ethan and I have a surprise for you." "A surprise?" Ethan appeared, carrying a large package. "Open it, Mrs. Thompson." Emily carefully unwrapped it and found an engraved plaque. "To Mrs. Emily Thompson, who taught us that family isn't just those you're born with, but those you choose to walk with. With love, Ethan and Michael Anderson." "Ethan, Michael, this is so beautiful. You deserve much more than this," said Michael. "You changed our lives." "We changed each other's lives," Emily corrected. "That's what happens when people truly care." Ethan hugged Emily and whispered in her ear, "Mrs. Thompson, can I call you godmother?" "Of course you can, my dear. It would be an honor." And so what began as a teaching challenge became a beautiful story of love, family, and perseverance. Ethan continued to grow and thrive, always supported by his expanded family. Michael became a present and loving father, and Emily discovered her calling went far beyond the classroom. 2 years later, Ethan wrote an essay about the important people in his life. The text read, "The most important people in my life are my father and my godmother Emily. My father taught me that it's never too late to start over, and that a father's love is patient. My godmother Emily taught me that being different doesn't mean being worse. It just means being special in your own unique way. Together, they taught me that family is whoever loves you for who you are and helps you become the best version of yourself." Ethan's essay was selected to represent the school in a citywide contest. On the day of the awards ceremony, all three were there. Ethan beaming with pride, Michael capturing every moment with photos, and Emily with tears of joy in her eyes. When Ethan stepped onto the stage to accept first place, he said into the microphone, "I want to dedicate this award to the two people who taught me to believe in myself, my father, who learned how to be a real dad, and my godmother Emily, who showed me I can achieve anything if I don't give up." In that moment, Emily understood she had found the true meaning of her profession. It wasn't just about teaching English, math, or science. It was about teaching children to believe in themselves, building bridges between hearts, and creating families where there had once been only loneliness. The story of Ethan, Michael, and Emily became legendary at Lincoln Elementary School. New teachers always heard about how a dedicated educator had transformed the life of an impossible boy and reunited a broken family. Years later, when Ethan graduated high school as one of the top students in his class, he decided to pursue education. In his graduation speech, he said, "I chose to become a teacher because I had a teacher who taught me that education is an act of love. I want to be for other children what Mrs. Thompson was for me, a bridge to believing that everyone deserves love, understanding, and the chance to shine." Emily, sitting in the audience beside Michael, wept with emotion upon hearing those words. She realized her greatest achievement hadn't just been helping Ethan overcome his academic struggles. It had been planting the seed of love for education in his heart. Today, Ethan teaches at a public school on the outskirts of Chicago, dedicating himself especially to children with learning difficulties. Michael became a more compassionate businessman, prioritizing family without sacrificing professional success. And Emily continues to educate, now as a curriculum coordinator, always reminding other teachers that behind every difficult child is a story that needs to be understood and a heart that needs to be embraced. The bond between the three remains strong. They meet regularly for family dinners, sharing stories, dreams, and achievements. Ethan calls Emily his godmother, and she takes pride in seeing the wonderful man he has become. Recently, Ethan called Emily with special news. "Godmother, I have something important to tell you." "What is it, my dear?" "I just identified a student in my class who shows signs of dyslexia. He's a shy, moody boy who isolates himself during recess." Emily smiled on the other end of the line. "And what are you going to do?" "I'm going to do exactly what you did for me. Show him that being different means being special, earn his trust, and talk to his family so we can build a path forward together." "Ethan, I'm so proud of you." "Godmother, everything I am today is because of you and my father. You taught me that love can transform any story. And you're proving that this transformation never stops. It multiplies through the people who choose to love and care." End of story. This story teaches us that behind every child we consider difficult lies a universe of feelings and needs waiting to be understood. It also shows us that it's never too late to mend relationships, and that true love has the power to transform not just individuals, but entire families. Now tell us, have you ever experienced a similar situation, whether as an educator, parent, or student? Do you think Ethan made the right decision by becoming a teacher? Share your thoughts in the comments with heartfelt words about this story of perseverance and love. Your experience may inspire other readers. Don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other touching stories that warm the heart and make us reflect on the power of love and dedication.